everyone, and welcome to the Scratticus Academy. We are back with some Blades in the Dark today. So before we head around and say hello to all these lovely faces that you can see here, please check out the links coming up in chat now. That includes the content warning for this game. It is a grimdark game, so please check that out. Also, we have the Discord. We have a channel just for this game where we'd love to hear what you think. Also, if you would like to get into a game or one of our viewer games, we are already setting up for the next season as well as this one. So go drop Scrat a DM on Twitter and we will get that sorted. Also, if you've missed out on anything, you can head over to YouTube. All of our games are put into playlists so that you can catch up with ease. A huge thank you to our wonderful sponsors, the Deck of Many Things, the Moving Magic Spell Cards. You can see their Kickstarter is over 3,000% of their total so far. It's got some amazing stuff going on over there, including their new moving tarot cards that can help influence the game, which is some very exciting stuff. Also, the wonderful Magehand Press. You can their Fae Folio we run every Wednesday, which is a viewer game if you want to come and try it out. And they have also released their Dark Matter in hardback, which is effectively third-party D&D in space, which everyone needs in their life. Also, the wonderful Hero Forge. On Wednesdays, Scrat and I drink a lot of coffee and we play around with their beta to create minis, and they are introducing just more and more details and so much flexibility on making the mini yours, down to colors, textures, and actually moving and shaping the mini itself. So head over there and check that out. And last but certainly not least, also Dungeon Fog, whether it's for a one-shot or combat or something like this, or even a campaign. They help you create your maps and also the notes that go alongside with it. And one of the fab features that they offer is that when you tweak something on your map, it immediately updates over in your notes as well. Otherwise, let's head round and say hello to everyone here. And we're going to start with the very lovely Nazgul. Hello, hi.
Hello. I'm happy to be back. I am Nazgul. That's online. That is, I'm Nassim. I'm playing Odessa Ward, your hound. And I also am on the Venture Maidens podcast. And I also stream Sunday night on the Venture Maidens Twitch. We do Let's Plays. It's a good time. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you. Then we're going to hop down and say hello to Lucha Libres. Oh, hi.
Hello, my name is Simon. You can find me on Twitter at Lucha Libres, which has my stream schedule for all of my upcoming events. I'm a game designer, I'm a voice actor, and a pro GM, and I will be playing Spurs, the Cutter.
Fantastic. Thank you. Then we're going to hop over and say hi to Tiffany. Hi.
Oh, hi. My name's Tiffany. I feel like I should say it because you guys all keep saying it. I'm Tiffany Shan Lee on Twitter. And I'm playing Blue, our slide.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Evil Clever Dog.
Hi, I'm Izza. You can find me at Evil Clever Dog on Twitter and Instagram. And next Monday, I will be guesting on the Chromatic Chimera's Wildmount Daring and Divine campaign. So come and check that out if you want to. And I will be playing Rajani the Whisper.
That's awesome. Thank you. And let's dive straight in. At the moment, I think the party is entirely split. So all over Doskvol, as we are. But we will start with Odessa. And Odessa, the party dropped you off on one of the corner streets as you had something you wanted to do before you returned to the group. Where was Odessa headed?
I believe I was headed back to my little shack, and I wanted to just check up on supply, make sure people hadn't found it or tried to break in or anything. Just do a quick little survey of my abode.
Okay. So you can head on the way back to... Is it a long walk from where you were dropped off, or is it quite quick from where you were?
Where did I get dropped off?
You got dropped off in Brightstone, sort of as you came back from White Crown, just about coming in.
Then probably, yeah, because her area is in the Red Lamp district. So she's gonna start walking that way, going down south, and at a less busy part of town, go into her tunnels via the alleys between two brothels.
Okay, so you can weave through all of these alleys, and you can lose yourself quite quickly. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of interactions going on, people talking. It's probably one of the more crowded areas after the ones you've woven through. And what does Odessa's shack look like from the outside when you arrive?
It looks run down. It looks like no one has used it in, I don't know, at least like 3 or 4 years, maybe more. It doesn't seem like there's a way really to access it from the outside, because she normally doesn't access it from the outside. She's always coming up from a tunnel underneath. So she's just gonna kind of survey around it on the outside first to see if anyone has been in the area, like footprints, something like that, and then go in.
Okay, could you roll me a survey, please? Standard and controlled.
Cool. Oops. There we go.
Okay. Question. Does Odessa set up wards around her own place?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I will say on that, you notice that there's a lot of people in the run-up to your shack. You can, as I said, easily sort of blend in with the people around you. There's a lot of conversation going on. But you look towards your shack, and you can see the lamp starting to be lit, running along the streets behind you, and it kind of casts a bit of a dull light across it, sort of casting shadows and maybe throwing some sort of perceptions off, but you don't really see anything around the shack. You can't see any footprints, you can't see any sort of disturbances. You do feel, though, that your wards have been tested.
I am going to set up a couple more.
Yep. We say you can do that. I feel like you do this a lot. So are you going to go in, or are you going to go back to the tunnels to go underneath in that sense?
Yeah, I don't want to disturb the outside. If people are coming in, I don't want anyone who might be looking at me right now to realize that there is a usable shack right there, because it's also very nicely like disguised by like the natural shrubbery and like trees around. You have to kind of really look for it to see that it's a structure. So yeah, I'll walk back out after I set up a couple more traps and head underneath to come into the shack.
Yep, you can set up all the wards. You can set them even like not exactly on the shack, but just around the outside, if you see what I mean, on the surrounding sort of alleyways. And as you come up from underneath, what does it look like as you come in to this shack?
It's like right between the bed and her little nightstand. It's a very small little space, and Odessa's a pretty skinny looking lady, so she can fit right through. Her bat definitely couldn't come from this way. I usually access him from the roof or a window or something. And inside, it's extremely simple, mostly wooden furniture, just like a little cot as her bed, and then the nightstand. When she gets up, she pushes the nightstand, because right under there is a little hatch where she's hidden the wine bottles of the demon blood, and she wants to go in and just count the bottles she had.
Yep, you can go and count them. They all seem to be there. You feel like none of your wards have been broken on this side. Whatever you set up, it definitely, if anyone did try to get in, it prevented it. I will say you can't hear or see Draco. Nothing has been touched within the hut. It all seems fine, and all the bottles are still there.
Awesome. Do I still have the things that we found from... Oh, no, we took them back and tested them, right? The, like, little perfume vial and the other thing? Okay, then I don't. Well then, since everything's good, I'll put it back, hide it away, and get back into the tunnels and make my way out. And I think I'm just gonna. Is it evening or is it daytime?
It's as much as it's always dark in Doskvol, you can see where there's more and more lamps being lit. It's kind of sort of coming towards the edge of evening. It's definitely encroaching into the evening time.
Okay.
And in the area you're in, there's more people sort of flooding in at this time as well.
Mm-hmm. Then I think she's gonna wait a while before heading back to her crew, and she wants to check up on her little side business that she's got going for herself, and take the tunnel a couple structures down to her other place of business and meet up with her partner there.
Okay. And you can head along there. What does do you meet your partner there like often, or is how regular do you use these tunnels?
The tunnels I use fairly regularly, especially coming back from the 13th floor and going home. Not so much coming from the brothels. Is there a better name for that? But the brothels. Because she probably only does her little vigilante justice thing there, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a month. She likes to keep her identity and everything a mystery, and where she lives and everything a mystery, so she really limits her time there. But it's been a while also, and since all this stuff has come up, she thinks there might be some information to be gained in like these more seedy areas, and wants to go check up and talk to Milos.
Okay. When you arrive, what does Milos look like?
I think he's a little bit older, probably like mid-30s, but already has like some peppering gray coming up to like his temples up here, and it's like the 90s boy parted down the middle kind of haircut. He's got some really gaudy looking jewelry. It doesn't really seem to fit his personality, but it's about running the house to give an air of, I run this place, I'm in charge. But he's
how tall is he? Like, is he a big guy or is he a little guy with this look?
Be a lot funnier if he was a little guy, so let's say he's a little guy. Sorry, little guys, but it's true. So yeah, he's probably like 5'6", 5'7", just like a couple inches or so taller than Odessa. But I approach him, and he's also got like very nice robes. It's got kind of the twin tail coat with a velvet collar.
You can approach him. You can see him. He's sort of he's having a conversation with someone, but as soon as he sees you, he sort of dismisses them very, very quickly, and he gives you a very sort of toothy smile. It's him trying to be friendly. You know, it's a different smile that he gives other people. It's just like, everything all right?
Yeah, I was just hoping to get some information, some updates about any guests coming in the past like couple weeks.
And he looks to you for a moment, and he sort of looks off to the side. He's like, let's go somewhere and chat a bit, you know, more in private. And you can see he's looking around, and he probably doesn't normally look this awkward in his own space, but he does start to head to one of the you know, it's just one of the rooms he calls his office. It's not an office, it's kind of just a room with a load of boxes in, where he tries to make it look kind of professional. But he does open the door, and there is a desk in there and a lot of his just personal possessions that you think he just keeps in here. But he walks straight in, and he sits on the desk and waits for you to come in and close the door.
She sits. So, Milos, well, first of all, any trouble lately since I've been gone?
And he looks at you, and he kind of plays with like some of the jewelry on his hands and sort of around his neck. And he's like, "Are you in trouble, Odessa?"
It's starting to look that way. I don't quite know the level of the threat just yet, but I'm figuring it out, and I'm just wondering if anyone has brought any trouble here, any suspicious activity, any new faces you don't recognize.
And he pauses for a moment and he looks at you. And when you look around, you look at his office, and normally he's quite tidy. And you can see things are all over the place right now. Almost, you're not too sure if it looks like, you know, they've been moving things around or there's been something else going on. He's like, not too long ago, I wouldn't say it's, I don't know, about 3-4 weeks ago, we had a real pretty man coming in looking for you.
Did he have any heavy perfume on?
Oh god, yeah, the most of them do, to be honest, but this one stank of it, yeah.
Roses, was it?
And he sort of pauses. I might have to ask Becca. She was the one who had to confront him for a bit. He was not rude, very charming apparently, but I didn't like him.
And did he ask for me, or did he ask for Dee Dee?
He asked for you.
Did anyone ask him anything? How did he seem to know to come here?
I told him no one by your name worked here.
Very good, thank you.
I will say though, 3 days later, we had a break-in.
Anything taken?
No, nothing taken, but those routes you take to get here, latch on that was.
Okay.
Did I do the right thing by saying you didn't work here?
Absolutely. I assume this is the man that has been after me and my crew, and we don't know enough about him to know if we're really prepared just by ourselves to take him on. And he's seemed to do a lot of other sneaky break-ins throughout the city, and we don't really know how he's doing it. When we have wards and barriers up, we work with some of the people with the best security in town, and they've had break-ins, and we don't really know what we're up against.
Well, I ain't seen him since, but don't like him. Real shifty.
Well, I'm happy to set up, I don't know what good it'll do, but I'm happy to set up a few more wards around here, and maybe build a new entrance for myself if they seem to have figured out what tunnels I'm using.
I think it'd be wise. You should probably know. He's proper grimy. I mean, no offense, but he brought his mother with him. Who does that?
What? Did he say her name?
No, actually, she stayed real quiet. Stood at the back. I think he was, I don't know, just dropping in. Whilst maybe he was taking her somewhere else.
How long ago was this?
A few weeks back.
Do you remember what she looked like?
You know, standard older woman. I think she was blind though.
Was
Real nice.
she wearing an amulet?
I'm honest, I wasn't really paying that much attention. She was real nice. Not as fancy as him, but she seemed nice enough. Becca
Well.
gave her a cup of tea and everything, you know, whilst we sorted him out.
Did he actually work with one of the girls here?
Nah.
He just asked about me and
As
left.
soon as he found out you weren't here, he kind of left.
Okay.
Just a heads up.
Well, no, thank you. That was honestly more information than I expected to find. But okay, I'll get to work on some wards around here.
Be for the best. I've had some people come in and try and do it, but can't do it like you can.
That's right.
And he smiles and sort of laughs. It's just might want to put some by some of the routes you come in.
Yeah, will do. Before she gets to work, she is going to go up to her usual room and change and do her Darling Dee Dee ensemble in case anyone else comes in and sees her. But yeah, she just doesn't want anyone else to recognize her. So she gets into her little alter ego look and then starts putting up wards.
Okay. Whereabouts are you putting up wards? Like literally all over, or are you going to specific like doorways? The routes you came in where effectively there are like trap doors and things like that.
Yeah, the trapdoors, the main entrance. I don't. Did he say that the break-in happened from my route, or like they came in from the front door and then also tried to access my route?
They came in through like the main doors, but it seemed that this person was interested in the area where you could tell that Milos was very much like he's very good at spotting little things and where people look. So it's more that he noticed where they were interested. They didn't actually go there.
Then yeah, I'm gonna focus on main entrance, any side entrances, my little secret route, and I'm also gonna recommend. I suggest you rearrange some things around here, especially the mirrors. I don't know if scrying is involved, but make sure those aren't facing any main entrances, any very active areas.
He nods. I can do that. I'll get Becca
Good.
on it.
Cool.
And you know Becca's like it's just another one of the girls. She kind of like the front of house. She tends to deal with a lot of customers and clients. Normally she's very good at dealing with if someone comes in kind of aggressive, you kind of send out Becca. It's that sort of feel to it. Even though she's very, very small, very, very wiry, she's got a bit of a temper on her. But Milos is like, it's all the wards done.
Yeah, we got several new ones around the door, and I think I got my little trapdoor hidden a lot better. But I think I'm gonna set up a dummy door as well.
And he nods. He's like, I don't know much about this stuff, but all right. And thanks. And just watch your back, because no one knows your name in here other than me.
Yeah, I always do, but I appreciate the concern, Milos.
And he looks kind of awkward, more just like he's troubled by whatever this is. And he sort of looks to you and he's like, maybe you should stick to your tunnels for a bit, or not. I don't know what's going on right now, but it's just some weird stuff, People don't just break wards.
Yeah, I know. Reach out to me if anything comes up again, if people try to come in without permission.
I will.
I'll have Draco fly around a lot more to keep an eye out and, send him a note or something if you've got something to tell me.
That'd be good. I ain't seen him in a while, so if you could send him this way just to get him used to the trip again. I got the stuff. I've got his favorite lamb legs.
Yeah, I'll send him right back then. He'll love that.
He smiles, and he's got a little bit of a soft spot for Draco, even though he's mildly scared of him. But he smiles at you, and he's like, "Okay, well, you do your thing, and I'll keep you updated."
She doesn't know whether or not to hug him or to just like shake his hand. So she just kind of like leans
The
forward
awkward,
and
like-
stops and is like hand on the shoulder.
He
Thank
does
you.
that sort of like, yeah, and it's that awkward, like a hug, but it's the small pat
Yeah.
on the back that he doesn't really know what to do. He has a very different personality behind the scenes than he does in front of the scenes, and he's just like, no, really, look after yourself.
I will. Thank you. You too. Please.
Yeah, I should probably get through this mess as he sort of starts moving things around again.
And she will head back into her little escape tunnel, lock it up inside and out, and head back to her little shack. And then once she's in there, she'll change back into her Odessa business and then use a different tunnel route, not the one she came in from, but a different one to head a little bit further towards the 13th floor.
Okay. And you head in that direction. Meanwhile, we're going to hop over to Spurs. Where did Spurs go when he was walking? Did he have a direction, or is it literally like one of those walks of, I need to clear my head, I'm going to walk wherever I walk?
I think he just went out front. I don't think he
did
actually
he just
went
go out
anywhere.
front? Ah,
Yeah.
okay. So you stand out front. You can see the lamps being lit. You can see like the traffic of the carts and things like that is definitely slowed. But you are in the dock area, and it never really stops down at the docks. And you can see quite a few people are still moving about. It's definitely a lot muddier down here. You know that Rajani and Thomas are still back in the hut itself.
Right.
But what's going through Spurs' head whilst he stood out here?
He's processing everything that's just happened. It's sort of been a whirlwind. I think this is one of the few moments that he's had in the last couple days to sort of just like breathe and get some space. So he's thinking a lot about like getting Wainwright out of the building with that fight, and like how that went. And I think he's sort of like in his mind going over like, well, if I had done this, then maybe he wouldn't have gotten shot in the leg. But no, it wouldn't have mattered because he was enough of a mess that he'd probably get shot no matter what I did. So why should I bother spending my time worrying about him? All right. Okay, not productive. Lights a cigarette and has a smoke and thinks about the team and his concern for making sure everyone comes out of it in one piece. I think Spurs is very used to dealing with problems that are in front of him. And he is also used to thinking about things that are coming at you. Mostly, it's like when you grow up in Severos, you're always being hunted effectively. It is a desolate area. The ruins of places that used to be built are all around you, and those are where you can find refuge from the ghosts that are constantly flitting around in these deathlands. And you stop there and you sleep, and then you keep moving. And as long as you're moving, something is watching you, something is hunting you. Your time is never your own, right? So I think a lot of being in Doskvol is like almost a relief, and it isn't. This is very much like, okay, now we're back to where we grew up. And I think the stress of all of it, and him like having these recollections of where he's come from and like this life that he's tried to leave, albeit by signing up to fight a war that is not his own, and coming out of that is like catching up to him now. And I think that's part of what motivates the viciousness, the vicious streak that is in him now, is like, I've put my neck out on the line for this guy who, like, maybe he knows what's going on, maybe he doesn't care, maybe he's not taking it all seriously enough. But these people seem to have a good head on their shoulders. I want to make sure they're okay. And now that we're in a similar situation where danger is around literally every corner, and it's something that he doesn't know how to kill. You can kill just about any ghost with enough time and firepower, and it might take a few extra bodies to do it, but that's what survival is. And in this case, like, we don't know what the cost is. That frustrates him. So, like, as he, if this were like the TV show or the movie, this would be a lot of like, he smokes, and in the smoke becomes like the transition into these memories of growing up in Severos and like flashing back to the fights that he's been in, watching people, the argument that he's just had with Wainwright, and like finally coming back to him, just like kicking a few rocks around on the cobblestone streets and like, what am I doing here? You know?
And almost as you're like thinking of these things, remembering both fairly recent events, but also a lot of past events. If you had any scars or wounds from war, they don't hurt, but for that moment you feel like they ache. Almost like a bit of a memory, just as reminders of what has been happening. And it's, you can see sort of, because from where this sort of boathouse is, there's a little bit of a track, just a tiny little bit. You're pretty sure either side that it's quite muddy. You think maybe some livestock was kept there at some point, not anymore. But you can see more of those carts being moved, like you did that day where you were walking down by the docks and you met
right.
the older man and the younger boy. And they're all very similar. They're standard carts. They're moving, but they are very similar to the things going on. I will also say, by the docks, could you roll me a survey just to see what sort of other things you see whilst, or study?
Yeah, he would
really
be taking in the nature of the scene.
Yeah.
What is the position and effect?
Controlled and standard from where you are. Yeah.
6.
You are watching. Okay, you're stood outside this, and you're watching kind of the standard. You can see a lot of the sailors coming in, some of them heading out. It's kind of routine. The only thing I will say you see is those carts that are very similar. You notice they're being almost fed in with groups of sailors. Like, there's never a cart traveling on its own. It's almost like using, whether the sailors are involved with it or anything, if a lot of them don't seem to even pay attention to the cart, they're just chatting to themselves, but things are moving almost in a pattern in and out of the docks. And it's only because you have stood outside for so long, sort of lost in thought, that you sort of pick up there's another one. And a couple of the carts have the same people on it, so they're going backwards and forth. And it is all the way down to the docks. It's down to the area where you know the tunnels sort of brought you out from the manor. You also know from the docks that there is a wide range of storage facilities down there. And you know that Thomas's huge sort of manufacturing spaces are down there as well, the ones he can't reach. But
Right.
for something where he can't reach, a lot of his people seem to be moving backwards and forwards. And you recognize some of the faces. You don't necessarily know their names, but they're not themselves. They're normally quite jokey. They sort of have a bit of a laugh. If anything, people would say Thomas is the serious one in this sort of business, but they shouldn't still be working.
And these are clearly like Thomas's people, like they're
some
like
of them
his
aren't
jumpsuits or whatever.
Yeah, some of them. I love
As
that.
it were.
Doskvol jumpsuits. But no, like some of them aren't. Some of them you don't recognize. But every now and then you're like, you can pick out a face, and you're like, that one works for Thomas.
Right.
And you know that Thomas has no access to anything right now, so technically they shouldn't be moving anything.
Yeah. All right. He crushes the cigarette under his spurred boot, and walks sort of like casually closer to that whole situation, like maybe just like posts up behind a stack of crates or like around a corner and just sort of like, I lost the tricorn hat somewhere down the line. Like I think it was like in the second episode running through the sewers. So he's got a different cap of some kind. I think that he can use as for a brim. Like maybe actually it's walking down the street, like just reaches out without looking at it and snags like somebody's like newsboy cap that is hanging on a drying rack or something.
Yeah.
And just swaps it onto his face and kind of keeps it low so that he's still got the long coat and is just sort of like keeping an eye sort of on the back shack so he can see if anyone comes over that way, but also gets a little closer and just sort of tries to piece things together. What I'm angling for in the long run is to find the answer to the question for gathering information, what's really going on here.
Okay. So definitely from roll me another survey just for a degree of something, and it is controlled and standard again.
Okay. I'm going to push myself on that one as well for a bonus die.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's a 5.
So you can definitely you're at one of those corners almost like where there's some of these fences, so you can see the boating shed and you can see everything that's going on. You've like found the perfect angle. To anyone else, you look like you're stood on the corner having a cigarette break. There doesn't seem to be anything about it. You watch, I'd say for a while, not hours, but like maybe for 30 minutes or so to an hour. And you notice that things are being moved. There's crates on these carts. Some of them are covered, like they've sort of got the sheets over them that are tied to the back so nothing falls off. But every single cart looks very, very similar. They're all carrying the same sort of box, the same sort of crate. One of the younger boys you notice that's about 13 years old and works for Thomas, Michael, is walking. And again, he's got that very deadpan face. Like he's just aiding the cart. There's no real emotion there, but you can see things are being transported. And when the carts come back, the crates aren't gone, but you can tell that they are empty. You can guess they'd be empty purely because some of them are just sort of moving about the cart a bit more on this kind of stodgy path, but also the cart is moving just quicker, lighter, and it's more maneuverable. And that's what you could probably gather from being a bit of a watcher.
Interesting. I don't entirely know what to do immediately about that information.
The other thing I'll say is each person who seems to be pulling them, the best way to describe it is kind of robotic. You even notice they are sticking, so where like the grooves go through this like caked thick mud of these tracks, they're lining up each time, almost like when you set a route on something and it just circles.
Yeah, okay.
So this is very, very structured.
This is their lemmings pathing of like, drop them here and
All
then they go
going
along.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Screw it. Spurs takes a moment and gets a little closer, and then I think like tries to find one of the routes that's like a little less traffic. Like maybe there's a bunch of people that are moving along a path, like in and out of a building, and then like walks along, swaggers. Actually takes a pull from the flask, from his hip flask, swaggers out and like tries to bump into one of them with his hat still down, and go, "Whoa, sorry, didn't see you there." And just like stabilizes himself on them and tries to get a look at what these people are like up close. If it's more of the same like glassy-eyed vacant stare or not.
Are you going for Michael as Michael's going past, or are you going for someone that isn't someone you kind of know?
Let's say it's Michael. He's there.
Okay. Michael is 13 years old. You sort of knock into him. He doesn't fall over, but it's a bit more of a hit, and he just stands upright again and continues to pull the cart. But if you physically like get in front of him to say, you know, sorry and stuff, he looks at you, and his eyes are very glassy. You can see his face is pale. He looks very wide-eyed, and it's not like he's looking at you. It's almost like he's looking through you.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing you notice is that, okay, so Doskvol is a very polluted area. It's very, you know, there's a lot of muck in the air, there's a lot of muck on the ground, and it causes people, especially with all the smog, and so especially down by the docks with all the manufacturing going on, people blink a lot. And Michael is not blinking even on a regular sort of scale, and when he does, it's very slow, almost like he's sleepy.
I think Spurs sees that, and he keeps the hat down, like pulled, and as just walking by, like kind of takes a step back and straightens up a little bit and opens his mind, and tries to attune to the ghost field to see if there is like a sense of aura or presence or something that is around these people, or if it's just like something else.
Roll me an attune, but make it risky, please.
Sure.
Okay.
That's 6.
So as Michael sort of, sorry sir, and turns and starts to move again, that's when you sort of open your mind to this. And it's kind of bizarre because you can tell Michael's in there. It's kind of like a very small whispering voice. Like when you hear it, it's tiny. It's almost like something has been suppressed. You can't see exactly what is suppressing it, but this is definitely some form of magic. This is not another being particularly on this. So it's not like a demon, it's not like a ghost or anything that is suppressing Michael's normal self, but you can feel almost like the presence of magic, and it is the presence of a particular person. So this has been put on them, and as you reach out, you notice it tends to be around most of the cards. It's kind of like a suppression magic. It doesn't seem vicious. It literally seems kind of methodical in a way that it's steering a puppet. It's not taking anything from Michael in the way that it's not draining any life, it's not taking any health, it's not damaging in that sense. But Michael is not really there. You can hear his voice somewhere. It's so quiet and it sounds panicked. It sounds like someone is panicking, but they're not sure what's going on. You can hear the confusion, almost as if it's rattling around in your own head. And you can hear Michael's voice. It's almost like when like a bug sort of passes past your ear and you hear that hum. That's how sort of quiet it is. You can tell it's Michael. You've met Michael, and he should have recognized you, even though you had your hat pulled down, and he has had no recognition.
It's like the person is there, but buried.
Buried very,
and there's
very
something
deep.
That is like
Something's
taking the top level consciousness.
It's like it's almost the person is like being pushed down, and something else is just occupying them for a moment.
Rather than like the body is now a shell, or like this is an artificial, like a simulacrum or something.
No, this isn't an empty body in any way. If anything, I'd say you would have maybe seen some sort of magic like this before. In some ways, it can be it's basic magic, very illegal, but it is basic magic.
I guess the last thing that I want to do, because I want to give everyone else a little screen time, is like try and pinpoint where that's coming from, if possible.
Okay, roll me one more attune, but we will take your previous roll into account. This is risky.
Okay. So risky. What standard effect?
Standard effect. No, sorry, standard effect.
Okay. That's 2.
Okay, so what does it look like when you try to reach out and find where this is coming from?
Most of the way that Spurs has learned to channel the ghost field is through his cult-like faith. So it's a little bit of a glow at the back of his collar where the sun tattoo is. His eyes sort of he likes to like close his eyes and focus for a moment, and then when he reopens them, there's like a bit of a glowing sheen, almost like they're like being heated, like metal. But you can still see his pupils. It's just like they're kind of yellow orange a little bit. And when he reaches out, I think he's able to see sort of either the auras or like resonant signatures of things that are around people, whatever they are, whether they're spiritual or just like the ambient energy that everybody has. It's a little like Eagle Vision
Yeah.
in the earlier Assassin's Creeds of like the world goes a little monochrome and then like the important things are highlighted in various colors.
Yeah, they sort of like get picked out. It's almost like there's a radiation sort of coming off of them. And
Yeah.
as you do, you get it's strange. You start looking and you can see these colors sort of swirling around these individuals. It's your way of picking things up. And on a 2, you can hear somewhere someone whispering. Maybe the words of a spell, you're not too sure. It's getting kind of it's almost like you'd have to close your eyes to really listen, but it's so quiet. And these 2 things happen from this, and one, you can definitely pick up that it is coming from this district. It's coming from somewhere in the docks. But as you sort of do that attunement, almost as you reach out, Michael stops just a little bit further ahead and turns and looks at you dead straight in the eye. And the whispering continues. Michael doesn't move. You hear people behind him like, come on, hurry up, like trying to move around him and shouting. And he just stares at you. And you feel like someone else is looking back. You've been noticed.
Cool.
And as there's another shout, Michael turns, heads back towards the cart, and starts moving again.
I think he acknowledges that he's been seen, like just sort of like nods at the kid, and not at the kid, but obviously whoever is seeing through the kid.
Yeah.
And he turns as Michael turns, so they both like go back about their business. Like, okay.
Yeah, you both sort of turn and walk away from each other. And what is Rajani doing at this point? As you were doing your what were you doing in the boathouse? As Spurs had taken a moment to step outside, Thomas spoke to you. You had a bit of a conversation about him and maybe how he's not good at processing a lot of stuff, but he has sort of left you alone. You get the feeling he's realized maybe he's not the best person to be around other people, especially when the tensions are high. So he's gone to stand now at the edge of the dock, the edge of this boathouse where the water is sort of lapping. You can hear the bell towers in the distance. And you can see, as it's getting dark, that soft glow from the cigarette he smokes, and you can smell that.
Yeah, well, when Thomas started talking to Rajani, she was actually still sort of towards the end of setting up her ritual, and it had already been interrupted once when Thomas and Spurs had their argument. So then Thomas interrupted her again, and she was very willing to talk to him, but
he's not very good at this. He
but also, like, Rajani is not the best person around other people usually, so she was just kind of like, Why is everyone talking to me as if I'm like this great mediator? So I guess after Thomas kind of excuses himself, she'll just turn back to her ritual, which is the doing her like relief stress weird vice indulgence, which involves a lot of sort of carved figurines and strange sort of what's the word, like sensors with a little bit of like green smoke sort of swirling out of it, and she almost sort of like gathers this smoke up into her hands using the same movement that she's usually seen when she's casting sort of arcane things. Sorry, I'm really not with it today. And she almost like gathers all this smoke up into her hands and sort of like places it on her face and sort of like inhales it. And with that kind of like lets out a sigh. And I need to roll for indulging vice, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The lowest
Take the
result.
lowest,
Okay,
yeah.
so I relieve 2 stress. Yeah.
You definitely sort of indulge in your vice, and as you sort of like breathe that all in, it's almost like you become incredibly sensitive to everything around you, and you see spirits walking around. You see them in this dock house. They are, from their actions, you can't really see it. From their actions, they look like they're loading a boat. They look like they're pushing off out into the river. It's almost like it's an old routine for some of these spirits, like doing the things they used to do. You can definitely sense spirits all around. It's almost like you can project it, you could see it. If you focused on one enough, you would jump towards where they are. Almost like you can sense in a wide radius. It's not like you're communicating with them, but in a wide radius you can sense how many spirits are around, and you just hear a lot of whispers, but it's not overwhelming in this sense. If anything, it's quite calming.
Yeah, I think for her it's definitely strangely calming, like being firstly near the water and secondly just sort of being aware of these sort of non-harmful spirits just going about their business. That's something that brings her a lot of comfort.
The sound you're sort of almost just being flooded with right now is both the sea and the chatter of these spirits. In some of them you can hear somewhere one of them is singing almost like a sea shanty. They're just humming it and whistling it as they're walking down the streets. If you focus on any of them, it's almost like you zoom out from the boathouse itself. You can see Spurs walking down one of the streets with a lit cigarette. You can see all of these, not like specifics, it's more that you pick up the feeling that Spurs is there, the same way you pick up there's live people walking up and down the streets, but very much merged in with the dead that are walking these streets as well. And could you make an attune check for me, please?
Yep.
Not risky, controlled and standard.
Okay.
Okay.
6.
So where you are, almost as you indulge in this vice and you're picking out all of these sounds, you do hear one other voice. And I say voice, it's not really a voice, it's the same sound of the breathing you heard down in that family tomb. Nowhere near any of you. It's more, you think, because your reach is so big right now, you can hear it again. And it's walking around somewhere as if it's like it's moving. It's not It's not rushing anywhere. It's just wandering. The
It's
sound
not,
of this.
Is it heading in a particular direction, or is it just aimlessly wandering?
It doesn't seem to be headed in any particular direction. You could, so on a 6, you could definitely tell it was in the dock area. Not. Also, you probably would guess, your reach doesn't reach straight over all of Doskvol. It's, you pick up sort of like the dock area and the edge of White Crown. And you can pick up this creature, and it seems to be somewhere by the docks. You'd guess more between some of the housing area rather than any of the actual sort of industrial side of things. It doesn't seem like it's particularly going somewhere. You can't see its full route, and it doesn't seem enraged or anything like that, which is what you picked up off of it before.
And when you say we saw, this is like the thing we saw in the family tomb, you mean the one in Thomas's house?
The one in Thomas's house, yeah.
Okay. Am I able to? Sorry.
No, I was just saying it's out and about is what you're
Okay.
getting.
Am I able to like zero in or focus on it more than I already am? Or have I
roll
already
me
sort of
another
picked up
attune
enough?
if you're now focusing in on this one. Risky and standard.
Okay. Huh.
Oh,
Another
awesome.
6.
Okay. What are you trying to find from this as you sort of hone in?
I guess I don't know if I should look through maybe like the gather information questions. There is the question, what do they intend to do? But I guess intention as in sort of, are they going to try and come and find Thomas again? Are they waiting in case we come to the docks? Kind of
Okay.
thing, because we have decided that we're going there soon. So yeah, I guess trying to figure out its intentions and what its general course of action is, whether it's just sort of there incidentally or if it does have some kind of intention.
Okay. So you sort of, what does it look like when Rajani focuses, as if she's almost like honing in on one particular being?
She would sort of gather more smoke out of this sensor and take another inhale of it, and definitely close her eyes, and once she's sort of like inhaled all of this green smoke into her body, just completely exhale and try to relieve every sort of piece of tension in her body and focus just specifically on this one spirit.
Okay. As it's a 6, this creature doesn't see you doing this. Sometimes when you reach out, they don't necessarily know you're watching, but they can feel someone else present. You get the sense that they're, as I said, over more towards the housing bit. It's nowhere near like Thomas's business sort of area. It's and you're sort of more on that side than you are near the housing side of it all. So this creature is almost on the opposite side of the docks to where you are, and there's this almost this rush as you feel like there's a part of you that almost leaves your body and rushes through the door of the boathouse. You go past Spurs, you see that sort of slow motion of the cigarette leaving his mouth as that sort of puff of smoke comes out. As you go through it, you go through all of these busy streets as you weave in between these people moving every day through the docks, these carts, and it's almost like you're hovering above and you go through until you come to a heavy stop and you're looking through this creature's eyes itself. You feel almost like you're not necessarily within it, but stood directly behind it, looking through its own eyes. And you see it sort of turn its head very slowly and look towards all of the boats docked, all of the houseboats at the side. You see yours. as it bobs up and down in the water. But you get no sense of longing to go towards your boathouse. In fact, as it sort of turns, you watch it looking at these people passing by. All of these different people just going about their daily business, and you feel almost like this raspiness in your own chest as this thing is breathing and heaving, and it is tall. And you realize how high up you are. And it stands outside that old fisherwoman's house, looking up. You can see that cat in the window that sort of gets all of its hackles up as it hisses. At first you think it's towards you, and then you can feel that sort of, you almost feel that demonic presence around you. It doesn't affect you, but you can feel it. And it makes you a little bit nauseous. Not overly so, but you're very aware of it. But this cat hisses and swipes in your direction. And you can hear that little old lady is like, "Come on," as she shuffles past the window. And you notice your head tilt and follow before your hand reaches towards the door to pass through it. And then you're back in the boathouse.
Did the demon react to the cat swiping at it at all?
It didn't seem to react. It sort of, you think it swiped because you could see like a finger sort of go out, not to touch the cat, but almost out of interest as to of this creature. The cat hisses and swipes, but there's no real reaction from when you were kind of within that demon. You didn't feel any fear or anything else.
Did I feel any, because I've come into contact with both of them, did I feel any similarities in sort of the energy given off between that demon and Elizabeth?
How do you mean, sorry?
Just because the demon's approaching that particular house, and the
I
spirit of
see. I
Elizabeth
see what you mean. I see what you mean. Yeah,
obviously
you
tied
didn't
to that
pick up
house
on
as well.
Elizabeth anywhere nearby. If anything, you felt more of a connection between the demon and this house. So Elizabeth was Elizabeth, when you sense her, she tends to be a very serene, kind of mourning presence. But when you sort of were inside this one, it's the best way to describe it is, whilst as a demon you felt a familiarity with both the cat, the house, and the little old woman that had started making tea.
Would Rajani know whether, if someone's sort of soul or essence was separated from their body, could it be like divided up into different pieces and become different things?
You would say it probably could, but it doesn't tend to take on a demonic form if it does.
Okay.
A demon tends to be its own being. They're dangerous, but not, people can cope with them. Normally when a demon enters someone else, that's when a full-on demonic possession begins, but otherwise they tend to act as their own entities.
Okay. As she comes out of this sort of ritual, she's almost tired again after having just done this to relax. But she would, I guess, sort of sit there and just contemplate on this for a while. She feels like every time she discovers something new, it just gives her more questions rather than answering anything. And yeah, I think she pretty much just sort of sits and stares out over the water, maybe even like takes off her boots and dips her feet in the water and just tries to like keep like stay calm and relax.
It ironically grounds you.
Yes.
By dipping water.
Yeah.
You can sort of sit at the edge. Thomas is still stood there, even if you, because where it is, you'd have to go and sit next to him. He stood. He doesn't even acknowledge you're there. He does in the way that his eyes shift to look that you're there, and then he sort of feels awkward and wants to give space, so he continues to smoke.
Actually, after a little while, sorry, continue.
No, go on.
After a little while, she would, without even turning to look at him, just say, Thomas, you know how you said your mother was a witch, whatever word you want to use.
You just hear that.
What did she do? What did she work with? Do you know anything about it, or?
And he sort of grumbles a little bit. Is it protection spells mostly? As he sort of takes a drag on this cigarette. Father didn't like it. She seemed very aware, paranoid, Father called it, that we weren't protected enough. And she often said she was cursed, like she was running from something. I don't know. She only did good. She was and you see his head sort of drop just for a moment. She was a gentle woman. She was not a mother who was... He sort of pauses. She was kind. She was a caring mother. She was just not always allowed to be with me. That's why Father took me into the business, so I didn't pick up on... He sort of raises an eyebrow, and you can tell he's quoting his father. Her nonsense. But she was kind.
Well, I think that's unfortunate. So you don't know anything about what she might have been studying, or...
And he pauses and thinks, I could try find out. I was never allowed to know.
No, I suppose it makes sense your father wouldn't want you to know. I'm just wondering whether this being we encountered in your house could lead to answers relating to this unfortunate situation we found ourselves in.
Me too.
Maybe she was trying to protect you all from it, or maybe it's the result of something she did. I'm just thinking out loud.
She was very nervous towards the end. Said something was going to catch up with her. She only had not much time to figure it out. I respected her, and he sort of waves his hand with the cigarette in, as you can see it's coming like to an end. It's like a very small stump, and he looks at you. He's like, and he looks at you, and he looks at all the little sort of trinkets you set up and things like that. I'm not my father. There's nothing wrong with magic.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I don't really care much about other people's opinions on it, but it's good to know
And
that you're
so
not going to rat me out
shouldn't.
to the spirit wardens.
And he sort of, it's the first time you see him properly chuckle. He's like, no, I'm not. So it's If anything, it's an honorable thing. Difficult. There should be no problem with it, but people are scared of things they can't do or understand.
Yeah. It's funny because where I came from, people like me were almost revered and sought after. And then I came to Doskvol and it's the complete opposite here.
Yeah, and he sort of frowns. Magic-wise, what do you do then? I know my mother was very insistent on protection. I don't really know much other than what she told me when I was very young. She used to draw patterns on the walls, in the ash in the fireplace, in the dirt outside in the garden. What do you do?
Well, the magic I learned was mostly in service of keeping our flotilla safe. The ability to converse with spirits and other creatures and nullify them if necessary. For me, I always found my preference was reaching out to them and speaking to them.
She used to do that when I was younger. And one day she just stopped.
Did she stop doing all of her arcane practices, or just that?
No, if anything, her protective wards and magical skills intensified, but she refused to speak to any spirit. I don't know. I don't understand it. I can't see it. I didn't inherit anything. I don't know how it works.
I don't suppose she ever mentioned why this happened, why she did this.
Not particularly. He pauses for a moment. I think it happened when she had a bit of a falling out with my grandmother. I think she's dead now. I don't know. If not, I'm the only Wainwright left. But she just stopped, and I wasn't allowed to ask why.
Your grandmother?
Yes, I only really saw her 3 or 4 times, and I was about 4, 5. I don't remember much.
What was her name?
I don't know. At first, I didn't realize she was my grandmother until I never saw her again. I thought she died. I'm assuming she died. That's how it works when they don't see you again. Interesting woman, didn't fit in.
Out of character. Do we know Thomas's mother's name?
No, he's never mentioned it. He always called him mother. It doesn't. It's.
I asked him last time, and I think he said, "Mom."
Yeah, he said. Yeah, he said her name's Mom, because he never. He never really interacted with her because Martha came and started looking after him at that point.
I assume Rajani was there for Blue asking that, wasn't she?
I think you were, yeah.
Okay. She'd know not to ask it again. Rajani has suspicions.
I will say you're picking up from Thomas, though, that he genuinely doesn't seem to know. In fact, he's very unbothered by the fact that he had a grandparent. You know from knowing Thomas, he believes he's the only one left in his family line. It's why he tends to keep most of himself to himself.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's not, she doesn't like not trust Thomas. It's more, she's just kind of like, what a coincidence.
And he sort of smiles. He comes to the end of that cigarette and he sort of taps it down, drops it to the floor and puts his boot on it. He's like, I'm hoping Blue comes back with food soon.
Oh, I'm sure she will.
And he sort of turns and starts to walk away. He's like, I will leave you to your... And he looks at you sort of moving your feet in the water. He's like, you're paddling as he walks back across the boathouse, sort of feeling like you want to be on your own because of it. You're getting the feeling he's still picking up that he should be giving people space more than anything. And he sort of just goes and stands not too far away from you, but he does sort of slump in one of those 2 chairs that are here.
Yeah. Rajani just sort of allows him to leave and turns back to the water.
And you look out over the water. It's getting dark. It's getting darker. And you can see a couple of the boats coming in. Much smaller boats, more like rowing boats of people that are sort of moving things and are going about their day and mooring their own boats on the water. And I think that's where we will take our break. Everyone go stretch, go get a drink, tell your pets you love them, and we will be back in just a moment. Bye.
Looks like you really lost your edge, huh? Huh? God, I'm funny. So, I guess weapons don't... Weapons don't work! Hey, why aren't you laughing? Oh, I know. Let me hit you with the punchline! Wait, my animated spell cards! They can save us! Well, jeepers, Jane. Blast him! Avada Kedavra! Right in the funny bone. Bleh. I really don't like that guy. We did it! Yeah!
Defeat your greatest foes with the most powerful spells. Animated spells are back, with level 6 to 9. Each spell card features 8 frames of looping animation that makes the spell come to life, and contains all the spell details on the back. And for the first time, you can divine with a fully animated tarot card deck. Will you read Fortune or Folly?
Jane! Techno's reforming! Not on my watch! Meteor swarm!
Go to animatedspells.com and back the Kickstarter today.
Oh, hi everyone. So we're actually going to jump over to Blue now. And Blue, you were walking through the street in your disguise, I'd like to point out. And can you remind us what Blue looks like again? I think are you wearing Thomas's coat?
I believe I have borrowed Thomas's enormous coat. I have seized a stray alley cat and forced him to perch on my shoulders, trying to have the cat obscure my face. And I've purchased an enormous oversized newsboy cap, which is falling over kind of in front of my eyes. And I've generally made myself just quite dirty, and I'm trying to look like basically a crazy old lady. In search of, I've just been trying to buy some like hot pies for everyone, and just some basic medical supplies, maybe like some disinfectant, or very strong alcohol, whatever passes for disinfectant and Doskvol, and like bandages.
You can definitely buy very strong alcohol, and you can buy either medical alcohol, or you can buy that really cheap alcohol, which is probably going to burn just as much.
Oh, I'm nice. I'll try and buy medical grade alcohol. We're not just going to pour vodka on each other when we get shot.
But yeah, you can gather all those bits and bobs. You've got that all of these hot pies are sort of wrapped up, and you can feel the warmth sort of coming through that paper. But as you were walking along this street with this cat sort of clung to you, you did see Carlisle.
Yes, outside the 13th floor.
Just outside the 13th floor, down sort of one of the alleyways. And he sort of smiled towards you.
I don't want to keep staying so split up from everybody. I give him the finger back to see what he'll do.
And you notice that he smiles still, looking at you, almost like, for a moment you actually have to double check, like blink a few times to see if he's a statue or something in that case. But he gives you a bit of a wink, and he looks like he's going to turn and walk away unless you want to do something before.
Oh, can I do an attune check really quick? I'm going to walk towards him, and I want to do an attune check as I walk towards him.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Now that I have even more solid suspicions that he is somehow not a normal human, or like not a natural being, I want to see if I can sense anything about him.
Yeah, okay, so this is a risky and a standard, because I remember Rajani hasn't told you what he is yet.
Okay, 1. Amazing.
Okay, how are you approaching him?
So I think I'm just kind of saying like, fuck it. For some reason, I'm like going to grab the cat around my neck more tightly. Something about its like warm, something about its like warm animal body, I think is like comforting in this time of so many ghostly encounters. And I'm just going to kind of like speed walk towards him, not taking my eyes off of him.
You notice that as he spots you walking towards him, he stops in that alley and just waits for you to go towards him. And as you rolled a 1. As you smell those rose petals now, like almost overwhelmingly so, as you come sort of tearing towards him, because you're moving quite quick, right? Are you sort of like stomping over? Yeah, you step into this alleyway, and he is sort of frozen in place, and there's a little bit of a smile. And you feel this almost like ice takes over your body. Almost like this, that you feel frozen in both fear and intrigue. You stop. And when I say you're frozen, you feel yourself go rigid and stop completely. The cat's still moving, but you almost feel like you can't move your limbs, you can't move your body. And it's definitely out of fear, but it's not like you're looking at him going, he's terrifying. It's more that you're looking at him and it's like when human instincts kick in and it stops you before you get right up close to him.
I
And
feel
he
like
looks
I'm gonna
at
be
you.
mowed down by a carriage.
You're not in like the street, you're like in just the edge of an alleyway. But he stands there with his hands behind his back and he takes a step forward to you. He doesn't get right up to you. He's, you know, it's if someone walked past, they think you're having a conversation kind of distance. And he leans in. You headed over here in a little bit of a rush.
I'm not sure if this sense of paralysis that's come over me is like physiological or psychological or something else. So to try to shake myself out of it, I'm gonna do what I did as a kid when I was really scared, or like you have a bad dream, or like I imagine kids in Doskvol always have that like first ghost encounter kind of story. And I'm going to close my eyes and try and bite down on my tongue really hard to like kind of remind myself like you're not dreaming, like this is real, and to try and be like less frightened of him and able to just carry on a normal conversation if for some reason I'm not like seeing him, which is striking me as scary right now. And so I'm just going to respond to him. Yes, well, I tend to be very curious about people who are actively fucking with me and my friends' lives.
And he looks towards you, and you can taste that metallic like in your mouth as you sort of bring yourself round. You feel, you know, when you're like really tense and you suddenly realize you have to relax your shoulders, it's sort of that sort of sense. And he's like, I don't know what you mean. All I've done is invite you to dinner. And then you... It's an interesting gesture you showed me in the street just now. Some people just wave.
Just seizing inspiration from Spurs, like drive it like you stole it attitude. I'm gonna try and stab him. I'm really pissed. Blue was kidnapped out of this man's home, and he's clearly involved in a broader criminal conspiracy. Also helped bust her dad out of prison. And I do have throwing knives on me, so I'm just gonna impulsively just like reach out and slash at him.
Could you roll me a where is it? Skirmish. I was gonna say brawl from the other thing, but
advantage.
Do we have advantages from that I can draw on?
Look, you do not at the moment.
Can I take two stress to add a die?
Yes, you can. This is also incredibly risky.
Is it risky standard?
Hang on, what's the... It is... Hang on, sorry, bear with me.
No worries.
I'm gonna say extreme.
Risky?
Extreme. If you're gonna try to stab this guy.
All right, one bonus die. Come on. Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, okay, describe what it looks like as you stab him. And what blade are you using? One of your throwing knives? And actually, are you throwing it at him, or are you...
No, I'm keeping it in my hand, and I just picture kind of just like jutting out the side. I think that the same way that someone might, like a woman might always keep her kind of like hands on her car keys in her pocket as like this like protective go-to thing that you've learned. I think that I was kind of toying with it in my pocket, and you just see Blue's eyes narrow and like kind of like her face like flash with rage when Carlisle gives this just like flippant answer about social graces, and with no warning, I think I just slash sideways across his chest in just like a pure gesture of frustration.
Okay, so are you slashing across his chest, or are you literally...
Yeah, I just pull my hand out, and the blade is coming out the side, and I want to just like move sideways across his chest. Yeah. Just kind of like a
You
fuck you.
slash, and you can hear that sort of that metal of the as it leaves like the sheath, and you can hear that tear of clothing, and you see this blood well up, sort of just across his chest, sort of where his shirt is. Beneath his jacket, you can see it sort of spread. And he yelps, he staggers back against the wall and puts his hand up against almost like he's trying to just brace himself as he has that heavy breathing of, and there's an almost moment where he's looking down at his chest and he reaches one of his hands down and this blood is just sort of pooling in his hand, and he looks up towards you. Didn't know you had it in you.
For evidentiary purposes, I weirdly want to reach my hand out and see if I can touch him and get his blood on my hand.
I mean,
does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just not even like, it's not like some. I think it's almost in like a little bit of disbelief. I think I've almost didn't expect him to just bleed like a normal person, and
and
yeah, not in like a plunge my fingers into your wound weird kind of way, but almost just in like a
sort of like put it on his chest to see if it's like pulsing or like you I mean you could
like
reach out.
Like almost just like swiping my fingers to the blood and looking at it like, I guess that is blood.
As you reach your hand out,
unless it's not and there's something weird about it.
as you reach out and put like your hand over his chest just for a moment, he puts the other one, not the one leaning against the wall, the other one over yours, and holds your hand to his chest, and you can feel the warmth.
It's
and
warm?
He smiles a little bit as he looks you dead in the eye. You can feel his chest rise and fall.
So I feel breath. Do I feel a heartbeat?
You don't feel a heartbeat.
It's strange that the blood is coming out of his body then. You know what I mean? Because like if you're not, your heart isn't being able to bleed.
It's almost like it's leaking rather than
it's not the spurt that I might expect.
And he holds your hand there, and you can hear almost that ragged breath as he sort of leans the other hand on the wall. Is this how you greet everyone?
I always have that spirit bane charm on me. That I mean, I think everyone has. It's not like I have a particularly nice one. It's just like a lot of people in Doskvol have these. Can I try, since my hand is there and the spirit bane charm is on like a bracelet around my wrist, is there some way I can like almost try and like stick the spirit bane charm into him?
You probably wouldn't be able to.
I'm getting weirder and weirder with these
because
actions.
This is a slash. If it was a stab, you might have been able.
Can I just like hold it against the wound? Like basically just like twist my hand a little bit and just like I'm just like trying to like press that part of my wrist against where he's cut open.
Yeah, you sort of do that. You sort of twist and push, and you hear this hissing as he sort of bites down on his lip and sort of tenses his eyes for a moment as you hear the hissing as the spirit bane charm starts to burn and leave a mark on his skin where you've pressed your hand, just where the shirt is open just a little bit. And he looks at you.
I want to question him as I'm doing this, just like it's kind of like an intimidating thing you do as you interrogate someone. So it's like I'm hearing the hiss and I just ask him, what the fuck are you using the demon blood for?
And at that, he smiles. And as he smiles, he reveals just one, looks a lot more sort of pointed tooth that overlaps the side of his lip. And he looks at you and the grin widens. And as your hand is sort of like searing across, he takes the other hand off the wall and grabs the coat you're wearing and pulls you right up to him. Do you want to find out?
I just like press my bracelet harder against him and spit in his face. Let me repeat myself just one more time. What are you doing with our product?
And he leans forward. He sort of flinches a little bit as you spit in his face. He doesn't move it. He doesn't wipe it away. But he leans forward and puts his mouth to where your ear is. We're giving life.
Back to those who've died? I know they say everyone grieves differently, but this is a bit much.
New life. Would you like to see?
Where is everyone else? What are... Is that what you are? New life.
No. I'm very old. And you can hear just sort of a... You smell good.
Okay. I want to try a flashback. I'm like thinking as I'm talking to some kind of emergency procedure maybe, or something that we might have prepared as a group, for me to like signal to people where I'm going. Okay, so I can't quite think of anything that we would have like, yeah, I mean, all right. Yes, show me. But and I'm gonna remove my wrist and just like take my hand back and try to subtly slip the bracelet off my wrist to leave behind on the ground.
Could you roll me a skirmish to take your hand away, please?
Oh my gosh. All right, risky standard. Or risky...
Yeah, no, risky standard.
Okay.
You sort of try and pull your hand back,
Mm-hmm.
but he presses it still, sort of against him. And he looks towards you and he's like, you could always be like me, you know. And you just see his tongue sort of lick that sharp tooth at the side. Wouldn't you want, like, your wealth back, your standing back, revenge on those who took it away? I can provide.
We're working. You're working with the man who took it away. In fact, you busted him out of jail and sicked him on me.
Do you want to get your revenge on him? I can provide it. Set it up.
While we're talking, since I can't get this hand free, I have like not a sort of like fake diamond ring. It's very much like just actually a cheap bauble, but that I wear on the other hand. And I'm going to try and slip it like off my finger and like leave it on the ground behind me, subtly as we talk.
You can absolutely do that. Just sort of like put your hand behind as he's talking to you. And question, Odessa, you said you were going back to the 13th floor. Are you going via the tunnels or are you going via the front?
I was going through the tunnels, but I was going to come out at some point, not very far from the 13th floor, but I just took most of the tunnels to get into our neighborhood at least, and then from there I would come out because I am interested. No one has seemed to find or heard of Draco recently, so I'm kind of curious to see if I could catch up to him while I'm headed that way.
Okay, could you roll me an attune? Actually, no, sorry, what am I talking about? A survey, please. Standard and controlled, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I use an advantage?
I don't think you have one.
I think I have 2.
Are there no... Oh, hang on, everything got wiped, didn't it? I think when Scrat had to redo his whole computer. I feel like you have an advantage as well. I don't know why, but I think you do have an advantage. At least one. Yeah, go on. Roll with advantage.
Okay.
Just roll again.
Woohoo!
Okay. As you're doing this, you're sort of walking towards the 13th floor. As you approach, it looks closed. It looks like there's no one in there, and you sort of... It should be open at this time, even after everything that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But on one of the alleyways opposite, you get this weird sort of look as there's someone who looks to be having some sort of confrontation. Sort of a smaller build, but you recognize Thomas's coat. But you sort of see this sleeve, where the sleeve of this coat is behind, a small ring sort of drops off at the back and clatters on the cobbles. And as you look at Thomas's coat, you see a flat cap, and you can see a cat sort of draped over one of the shoulders, and it is very tense. Whoever is in front of them, which you can't quite see in the alley, is very close to them. And it's definitely not Thomas. This is not a Thomas build. This is a smaller, definitely more feminine, probably, shape. And they don't necessarily look like it's a pleasant conversation. And you can smell roses.
Mm-hmm. My pistols are out, and I'm coming up to the alley, and I'm going to take a spot, get a good angle, and aim, and see if I can see. I mean, I suspect it's Carlisle, but I need to confirm and get a good shot of one of his limbs, or not a life-threatening body part. Not that I even think he's alive.
You can definitely sort of maneuver. Are you trying to do this subtly, or are you just walking towards?
Subtly.
Okay, could you roll me a prowl, please?
Okay.
Controlled and standard.
Prowl.
Nice.
Okay. Describe what it looks like as you maneuver yourself almost into this situation. You can see as you turn around, you notice that Carlisle won't see you until the last second, until you bring yourself to his attention.
Mm-hmm.
But you notice beneath this flat cap, who is almost like half being lifted up and pulled right up close. The most you'd probably get where you don't hit blue would be like this side of the shoulder, so that it won't go through in any way to hit blue. Or you could definitely aim for like a leg or something like that, but you can see blue in this flat cap, not looking herself at all, in definitely Thomas's long coat. And this cat is hissing.
I am gonna try to get a little bit of high ground and get like an upward angle at his shoulder. So if there is like windowsills on the outside of our building. I'm gonna do a little bit of climbing, and just enough like a body, like 6 to 10 feet up, and take aim at his shoulder.
Okay. Do you announce yourself? Because he won't see you on that roll as you sort of... He's so focused on Blue right now, and you can watch his nose is twitching, like he's sniffing. You notice sort of where he's looking. He's looking particularly at Blue's hand, which is covered in blood.
No, I just want to shoot him.
Go for it. Roll me a skirmish, please.
Okay. Is this when Scout would give me
Is
a
it not
+1
Hunt?
or no?
Where's Hunt? Hang on. Yes, it is. Sorry, yes, roll a Hunt.
Okay. But does my Scout give me a +1 here or no?
I'd say it does. Hang on. Let's have a look. I believe so. I think it would on this. Because you've approached anyway with so much like stealth.
Sweet. You said controlled and standard?
Controlled and standard on this one, yeah, because of how you have approached.
Okay. That's one. Do-do.
Okay. You fire. And where are you shooting? Like
at
for
his
a leg
shoulder.
or at his shoulder. You Blue, from your angle, you hear the gunshot go off. You can smell that sort of gunpowder, that smoke. As he sort of recoils back, his hand that's holding onto you almost gets flung back as he does, and he sort of pauses for a moment and looks down at his shoulder again. That blood starts to well up, and he looks towards where it came from, and you can see Odessa sort of emerging through the shadows in the streets with this pistol pointed, and he backs away from both of you, and he doesn't say anything, but there's this sort of very large grimace, almost where his face starts to twist, and he darts back into the dark of the rest of this alley.
I want to try and grab him before he can get away. Like, I want to go for maybe I want to, like, lunge for his ankle and trip him up.
Okay, roll me a skirmish if you're going to try and rag him.
Risky.
Risky and standard.
I'm going to take 2 more stress. I really want this to work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what does it look like as you kind of drag him to the floor as he tries to make a dash for it?
Take a second to realize that he's, like, kind of already past me. And so I literally just, like, football style, try and tackle him. And I think I just get him kind of, like, around the thighs. And I'm basically trying to get him prone on the ground, so it'll take a minute for him to get back up.
Okay, you can definitely knock him down. You sort of half go down with it as it's like a tackle. So
totally.
he's down, and you can hear him like cry out for a moment as it definitely goes down on his shoulder. And obviously his chest is still sort of quite painful. He's almost trying to crawl away, but you're half crawling on him to sort of restrain his legs. He's definitely down on the ground. Odessa, what are you doing?
As soon as I hear or see that I made contact with him and he's starting to scurry away, I jump down from my position, run up to them, and assist Blue in, like, pinning him to the ground.
Yeah, you can definitely help pin him to the ground. He's already down. What are you both doing? As he's not really saying any words. He's just... You do notice, however, he hisses at you once as he sort of tries to fling out with his hands, but his shoulder is so painful, and across his chest, he's not really getting any...
I hiss back.
I take a quick look to see are we in a pretty isolated alley, or am I getting any interested looks from passerbys?
You're not getting any interested looks. You think if you stay here very long, there's going to be someone that walks down this alley at some point. So you probably couldn't stay here and do a lot. You'd have to take him somewhere else.
Let's
take
tie
him inside.
up. Let's tie him up.
Yeah. Do I have things?
Well, last time we didn't decide on a load because I don't think we said this was going to be like a whole thing. But
And
Even for,
burglary
like-
supplies, I imagine that involves rope.
Yeah, even for light, like I've only declared the throwing knife, so I think either of us could have burglary gear.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going into the 13th floor, I would have said you'd be able to have stuff in there as well anyway. So.
Yeah, so let's take him in and tie him up inside.
Okay.
Yes.
You can take him into the 13th floor. Are you tying him up to like a chair, or are you literally just tying him up?
Let's tie him up to like a pillar.
Mm-hmm.
Just wrap around.
Do we want to tie him up to a pillar? Or do we want to tie him up and try and somehow get him elsewhere? And at this point, I'm going to, well, let's tie him up first, and then I'll explain the situation to Odessa.
Okay. I'll say
I mean,
you can easily tie him up. He's trying to fight back, but he's pretty injured, so he can't, he's kicking about a bit, but you can definitely get him tied up, and he's just groaning more than anything.
Whenever if he shuffles enough, I'm gonna pull him by the ear. Stop it!
Yeah, you can put him by the ear. That's fine.
Whenever he's kind of safely and securely tied up, keeping him in eyesight, in no way leaving the room, I'm just gonna kind of gesture for Odessa to take like 6 or 7 steps back from him, so I can kind of whisper to her. And
he watches you the entire way, and it's not a happy look. This is probably the most sour you've ever seen his face. Normally it's a very sort of gentle, handsome, and right now it's very twisted.
We've stabbed and shot him, so
yeah, understandably. The whole time, as you pull Odessa away, her pistols are just on him. And...
yes.
Yeah.
And as we're still kind of looking at him, Odessa still got the pistols on him. I'm just gonna cover kind of the side of my mouth and just whisper to Odessa and just very quickly recount. Went to Thomas's. Spirit wardens tried to arrest him. Thomas got shot, but Spur's a little banged up, but we're mostly okay. We think that the 13th floor is being watched. So I've taken them to the docks. Old family boathouse. Don't think anyone knows about it. Do we want to transport him there? Spurs and Rajani are still there.
We could try. I mean, if we're being watched, it's possible that they'll just see us take him there.
If we're being watched, I'm surprised they didn't intervene.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or we could get word to Spurs and Rajani to come here. Which do you think would be safer?
I think if Thomas is injured, if people are after him too, and they don't know where they are right now, they should leave him. And Spurs and Rajani should come to us.
Okay. I'm trying to think what's the most do you trust just a random messenger? Do you want to just send a message? Or do you want to send Draco to go get them? Do you know what I mean? Kind of fly around, get their attention, and then fly back here? He's more noticeable, but more trustworthy.
Yeah, I think I'll try Draco first because I'm worried about him, so I need to make sure he's okay too.
Shit. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's do that. Do you have 2 pistols?
Yeah. I'll give you.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on this asshole in the meantime, and I'm just gonna take Odessa's place. I'm just gonna stand 3 feet, point blank range away from him, holding the pistol pointed at the center of his chest.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like he's going to try and make a jump or anything. He's just very disgruntled as he looks at you the entire time. You watch him watch Odessa go, and then it sort of falls back to you, Blue. And Odessa, so are you standing outside? Going outside 13th floor? Okay.
Yeah. I do my mind link. I give my whistle signal. I do the little whistle song that he knows as his call, and I'll also try and mind link Mama's worried, come here, I have a message for you.
And you sort of do that whistle as you stand outside, and there's no flap of wings, there's no sign of anything. And as you do that mind link, it's like you can feel Draco, but it's like something's muted. him. Like, you know, when you put a ward in front of something so you can't sense it, it's almost like you can sense that he's, because of your link, you can definitely sense he's alive, but there's no way you're getting through, and there's no flap of wings.
Ooh. I storm back in 13th
I was gonna say,
floor.
Odessa mad now.
Yeah, she's fucking furious. You don't touch my baby. She storms back into 13th floor, rushes up to Carlisle, and like pulls him from the back of his head, tilts his head back.
Yep.
Where is my bat?
And he smiles.
She's saying that, I just, like, Blue is shocked and just adds, "Oh shit, you have fucked up now."
And as you pull down on his hair, he's chuckling, but you pull so hard that you can see it sort of wince as he moves. And back over with Spurs. Spurs, are you headed back to the boathouse, or when you're away? Yeah.
Going right back there.
Boathouse, and do you walk straight back in, or do you linger outside for a bit longer?
He just goes right back in.
Okay. You head back in. You can see Thomas that sort of looks towards you. His eyes almost give you a bit of a nod, but he does turn his head away from you and continues to sort of stand, not on the opposite side of the boathouse, but he's kind of looking out on the water rather than trying to start a conversation or anything. He's almost trying to keep himself separate. And Rajani, what are you doing? You still sort of sat down by the water?
Yeah, Rajani would still be sat with her feet in the water, just kind of like kicking it around a little bit and maybe sort of practicing a few sort of arcane movements with her hands.
Okay. You would hear Spurs come back in. You'd also hear sort of a grunt from Tom, almost in acknowledgement, as if he's trying to let you know in case you haven't.
Right. She peers round just to make sure they're not about to start fighting again.
Thankfully, Spurs has more important things on his mind. So he comes in and like hucks the hat that he was wearing like across the room. It like lands on a dusty chair somewhere. And he like cracks his knuckles and readjusts his coat and goes, "Well, Thomas's boys are still busy," which is interesting considering Thomas says he can't get access to his operation right now. And not only that, somebody's in there pulling the strings. And I mean the way that you do, pointing to Rajani. And we've been made. So...
What do you mean?
Oh, they know that we're
Everything?
looking into it.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just, having a casual trip through the ghost field, and I sort of, I think I may have located that demon that was in Thomas's house. It seems to be by the docks. Near that woman's house that we went to. It seems to be familiar with it, which is strange. Very familiar.
I wonder if those two things are connected, considering whatever is controlling these guys is still active on the docks and not far from here.
Yeah. Maybe. A lot of things seem to tie back to that house and that family.
We should fill in the others.
Yeah. I guess they'll be back soon. We should probably still head down to the docks and check it out, I suppose.
I'd feel a little better going as a pack, considering that they know that I, for one, at least am looking around. If we have extra backup, couldn't hurt.
Yeah, of course.
Where did the rest of them go anyway? They got split up.
Well, Blue went out for food, and I obviously don't know where Odessa went. She left just before we got to Thomas's.
Spurs like pulls a pocket watch out and checks it. Like, how long does it take to get a eel on a stick?
You know that Blue's probably been gone about an hour. It might take longer because, you know, in the disguise, not trying to be seen, but you think an hour is starting to encroach on. This is a little bit too long.
Yeah.
To get
Rajani kind of looks a little bit flustered and kind of just like sweeps her hair out of her face. It's like, it has been a very long time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I got distracted, sorry.
Oh no, I know it takes it out of you.
Just like hurriedly pulls her feet out of the water and just pulls her shoes back on, her boots back on, and starts gathering up all her things. Should we go out and look for her, or?
Oh, that's my plan. At the worst case, she's having a little extra fun at the whatever watering hole she ended up at.
I feel like she wouldn't do that right now. We should all go so that you're not on your own. Although if the Bluecoats are after Thomas, I don't know. Should he stay here? What do you think, Thomas?
Thomas sort of takes a step forwards. He does keep his distance from Spurs, but he looks at you. He's like, "What do you want me to do? I can go check some things out for myself. I can." He sort of like scratches where you think there's like this stubble appearing. Is it Blue disguised herself easy enough? Maybe I can.
Pull out the disguise kit.
What mask would you like today? And he sort of looks towards Spurs, almost not sheepishly, but warily. Is it with your training and knowledge, is there something in particular you think I should be doing?
No, staying out of danger. You're fine to stick around as long as you don't make any noises or draw too much attention to yourself. Whatever this thing is out there that's got it in for you, it obviously knows more or less how to find you, or at least your patterns. So if we can disrupt those, we probably have stand a better chance of keeping you alive as long as possible.
And he looks between both of you. Do you plan on destroying it?
Of course.
If we have to.
Well, and he looks himself up and down. You've got your bait. Let me be useful in some way.
Well, you're welcome to tag along while we figure out what's happened to the rest of the crew. And then, yes, once we have a better handle on things, I think we will be taking you up on that offer.
Seems easiest.
Okay then. Let's try and find Blue as quickly as we can.
Now, if I were Blue, which establishment would I be partaking of first?
I mean, there's quite a few. Like, as he sort of like looks, he sort of like that because when you actually look towards Brightstone, you know there's a lot of fairly decent taverns in this place, and there's sort of 3 or 4 in the docks that are known for things like that. But Thomas looks to you. He's like, "Would she stop in one of those now?"
We all cope with the situation in different ways. I'd like to think that Blue has a little better sense of operational security than that, though.
So, is there a way we can send a message to Odessa. I don't know where.
Where's that bad?
Yeah.
Where is that
And he
bad?
sort of like not frowns, but you can tell it sort of gives him sort of like the shivers as he thinks about the bat as well. But he's so do we head to the local taverns or do we head to the 13th floor, or is that going to be overrun by now? They didn't exactly worry about keeping it quiet when they came to my humble abode.
Probably safe to assume it's been burned, or at the very least has people tearing through it, top to bottom. See how far that gets them. But if people are investigating, we might as well use that as a smokescreen. They'll be tied up. I'd say we start walking, see what happens. See if we can't get our hands on that rat with wings.
And he sort of grunts. He's like, then shall we?
Let's. I'm gonna kind of hand him something to cover his face with, or like a hooded thing or a scarf or something.
He hasn't got his coat anymore because he gave his coat to Blue, so he's kind of in like a waistcoat and sleeves that have been rolled up. It's actually quite a nice shirt. It looks like he'd put on, like maybe Martha had forced him to put on a nice one or something at some point.
Yeah.
And he does sort of smear some of like that black thick mud that you get down by the shoreline sort of across him. Across some of the shirt to make it look like maybe he's more of a worker. Sort of rubs his hands on his trousers.
Rajani's kind of like roll the sleeves up or something.
And he starts moving it sort of up. He basically does as he's told. As you can try and make him not look so obvious. And
Okay.
he has also just shaved the last time he did it, as he had shaved across there.
Yep.
Okay, then off we go. And he opens the door and holds it open for the both of you.
What a gentleman you are, Thomas. Just step outside.
As she's like, as you say that. But he'll step out after Spurs, unless there's anything Spurs wants to do before he leaves the boathouse.
Nah.
Okay. You step out and it is dark. You can still, I will say, especially because Spurs, you were looking for them before, you can still see those carts moving backwards and forwards. You see Michael do another loop. But you can head through the docks as you come up, and you can either go right through Crowsfoot or you can head straight to Brightstone. Where would you all go?
I think we're probably going directly. It's my thought.
Maybe
But I don't know
trying to keep to less obvious pathways and things like that. Like, not necessarily the main streets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think direct, but not like, let's just go in broad daylight,
Yeah.
clearly hanging out the carriage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but you can sort of maneuver, you can sort of blend in here and there. You do see a lot of blue coats and watchers around at the moment. They seem to be everywhere. They don't necessarily particularly look like they're looking for something, but they're everywhere. And you can see Thomas sort of pull his shirt collar up just a tiny bit, sort of shrug and hunch over a bit as you walk past his house, which is a mess. You can see people are piling in and out of it. There's a couple of kids going in and out of the doors. You can see watchers trying to kick them out as they're trying to do some sort of investigating and things like that. But you see Thomas sort of pause and watch for a moment, looking very angry, but does manage to convince himself to keep moving. So, are you heading straight to the 13th floor, or is there a local tavern you will go to?
I guess if we, because I know out of character that, but I guess
It's
like
the awkward, yeah.
yeah, if we know of places that Blue is likely to go, like a particular pub she likes or something, maybe have like a look in and see if she's there, but still sort of keep it generally heading towards the 13th floor.
Okay, you can poke your head in to like some taverns and things like that. The sort of the people behind the bar sort of give you the, shake their head, so they haven't seen her or anything to that effect. You can smell those hot eel pies that are being cooked in the street, and you notice Blue would probably have come this way if she wanted to pick up some food, as this is like one of the main areas for it and the closer area for it. She wouldn't have to go all the way to like the night market or anywhere else. You head towards the 13th floor. You can see the lights are on, or at least one light is on. Like a candle is burning in there somewhere.
Well, if there were bluecoats ransacking the place, I think it would be a bit more noticeable than that, don't you?
Yeah.
What does this mean?
Well, maybe Blue came back here, or maybe they did send a more discreet operation.
So,
Is it too meta if I asked a flashback right now?
What sort of flashback?
Well, the thing I mentioned earlier, I think that because we sometimes run the casino as a casino and we sometimes run it as this like demon blood operation, I think we might have a very subtle like signal to each other and people in the know, like which is going on. Basically, like it looks like we're closed for business, but we're actually like open for business for this like other operation. Like I was thinking almost just like a strategic like smear of mud, like left to right, like across the door or something like that. And I want to flash back to say that like we did that as we dragged Carlisle into the 13th floor.
If you think Blue would stop and think, right, I need to do this, because you aren't exactly making a speedy direction back to where you left the others, so you'd probably be aware that they would come looking for you at some point. So yeah, you can definitely...
Yeah. I think I would step outside and do that once I saw Odessa come in, basically ready to murder this guy over what happened to Draco, just because to me that's the moment when Blue's like, okay, we're going to be a while. Like something really bad has happened. We're going to be a while. Like they're going to come looking.
Okay.
In that case, Rajani would be like, well, they left us the signal, so...
and Thomas looks very confused. Like, what signal?
You don't need to know it, Thomas.
It's because he knows you probably have your own set of signals for Thomas and his deliveries and stuff like that. He doesn't normally deliver fully himself, so he may not know what this is. He's like, are you trying to say, are you normally open when that's
Well, Blue or Odessa left that there to tell us that they're the ones inside.
So
Don't
it's
worry.
not an all guns blazing sort of kick down the door notion.
No.
Not yet.
Do we knock?
She'll just walk over to the door and see if it's open. Or do we have like a knocking signal as well?
I don't know, do you? Or would you all have a key? Like, would you have locked up Blue? Is this like if you put that on the door, would you then lock up behind you?
I think Odessa and I would have locked up because we don't want random people like coming in. Yeah,
Okay.
especially bluecoats. So it's locked.
So Rajani, it's locked. So you know there's probably something going on in here that isn't just a catch up. But you open the door and you are in the 13th floor. And Odessa and Blue, what scene does Spurs, Rajani, and Thomas walk in on?
Blood everywhere.
Well, they'd see Odessa standing, like, towering over him, his head in her hands, still cranking his head back as far as it can go. And I assume maybe Blue close by.
I think I'm still holding holding the pistol pointed at him.
Odessa's kind of shaking. She's trying hard to control herself right now.
Would Spurs and Rajani state before?
Sorry, I missed that because you skipped for me.
Oh, sorry. I said, would Spurs or Rajani have ever seen Odessa this angry before? Odessa?
No, I don't think so.
So Odessa's normally quite calm, I guess. Sort of, she does all the wards and everything like that in the front of house. And you have never seen her this sort of set. You also see Carlisle. You realize as she's holding it, you recognize the face.
Yeah.
He's not saying anything, but like you can recognize him straight away.
I probably smell roses as well, right?
Oh yeah, it's almost as you open the door, that waft of rose petals
Yeah.
hits you.
I guess she probably smells that, since she's the one opening the door, probably smells that before she even sees what's going on. And her face probably kind of falls like, oh no, is this a trap? And then she sees what's actually going on.
Yeah. Okay. So Spurs, how are you reacting as Rajani walks? Rajani, you walking straight in?
I think given the scene that's going on, she'd probably stay in the doorway for a second, just kind of like not what I was expecting at all, but then knowing that this is the kind of thing we cannot have anyone else see, she will hurry inside to give Spurs and Thomas room to step in as well. So she can shut and lock the door again.
Okay.
Spurs has already taken the scene in, so he's once inside, like checks the door, checks the corners on the windows, looks around. Anyone else in here?
No.
Great. Gets the curtains closed if we even have curtains on these windows. It's that kind of thing. Like, all right, we're quiet, and just walks over and takes stock of what is happening.
Thomas sort of strides in himself. He does stay back, but he does sort of do that thing where he tips his head sort of so that he can look and see who it is. And you're all stood around Carlisle. Odessa is almost shaking with this rage that you've never seen her shake with before. And Spurs, you can definitely see very quickly that Carlisle has been shot and sort of sliced across, like, particularly when I say chest, sort of chest and collarbone kind of area. And he's not really hiding what he is now, and you can definitely pick it up straight away.
Right, so he's not unstable physically.
No, he's not unstable.
He's
at
just
all.
like
he's
wounded, but like he's not like, oh god, I'm a human and I'm going to die without medical attention.
Yeah, he's not playing the injured person. If anything, I mean, you'll know a lot more about it maybe than anyone else in this room. But he does sort of turn his face to look towards you. There's a slight smile, not at the situation, at now that the recognition of what he is. And it's more, you can tell these wounds are probably giving him some pain. And it's more that it's restricting his arm movement rather than the pain itself.
Mm-hmm. You poker face is shit. How far'd you get with him, Odessa?
Not very far, but I don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
Great. Well, let's do this by the book so that we get as much as we can from, as much blood from this stone as we can.
He told me that they've been using our product to, and I'm quoting him here, create new life. Not bring people back from the dead, but create new life. And that he himself is something very old. As you can see, I had a fun, great shopping trip.
It's a very productive discussion. Hope you got that meal you were looking for.
There are pies in the corner if anyone wants one.
So there's some pies sort of stacked up on the side of the bar. And
Thomas, there's some disinfectant if you want to clean yourself up a bit.
And he sort of looks down at his leg and he's like, and sort of starts to trudge over. And we'll leave that scene as those hot steaming pies sit on the side as Thomas starts to sort of sort out his leg. As Rajani, you stand to the side. You're picking up everything from Carlisle now. You are picking up all of the sort of the almost otherworldly side of him. Blue, you stand close by. spurs almost as close as Odessa sort of shakes violently with anger holding onto Carlisle. And I think we'll leave it there this week before we dive into that next week.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my gosh.
it's gonna get. We have angered a mother, so you know it's gonna get. It's gonna get mad. Otherwise, everyone, thank you so much. Please check out the links coming up in chat now. That includes the Discord, where we do have a channel just for this. We'd love to hear what you think, or maybe even what theories you have on this game. Also, if you'd like to get into a game, head over to Twitter and drop Scrat a DM, and we will get you in a game. Also, if you've missed out on anything, whether it's this show or any of our others, please head over to YouTube. All of our shows are put into playlists so that you can re-watch with ease. A huge thank you to our wonderful sponsors in the form of the Deck of Many. You can actually see their Humblewood show next. It is the opposite feel of this campaign. It's very wholesome. So if you want to head over there, you can check that out. Also, check out their Kickstarter, which is doing some amazing things and hitting every single goal as they go. Also, a thank you to Mage Hand Press, who have created their Dark Matter, which is D&D in space, and also their wonderful Fae Folio, which you can see played every Wednesday over here. Also, thank you to Hero Forge for their wonderful minis, and we've been testing out their beta, which is so much fun. I think I might have to start making some of the NPCs from this next week. They've just got so many good things on there and are constantly adding to it as well. And last but certainly not least, also Dungeon Fog. Whether it's for a one-shot or even a whole campaign, they help you form up your maps and all of the notes to go along with it and update as you update one or the other. Otherwise, until next week, keep evoking emotions and we will see you later. Bye.